welcome to another episode of Coffee with Mirko. Today we got a double treat, as in it's going to be a double episode with two guests from the same soda company. So we're going to have Eric and Braden, and we're just going to have a good blast from the boys from LM. And yeah, if you're new, just glad to have you here, and I'll look forward to have a chat with Eric, who is already asked. Good day, mate.
G'day, mate. How are ya?
Fantastic. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Very good. Thanks for joining me for a coffee of the day. It's awesome.
Okay.
Glad to be
No,
here.
thank you, and it's good to see your face, even though it's digital. It's
Yeah.
certainly a real trait. And how you and your family doing amongst these interesting times?
Yeah. Look, we're doing well. I actually have relocated up to Sydney temporarily. So my family's from here. So I'm actually just bunkering down with them, which is a bit of a change in scenery. But we've got the Marzocco office here. Everyone's in really good spirits. My family's doing really well, and the sun is shining. So happy days. How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
There's not much sun in Melbourne, but other than that, it's been a challenging time, but not for me, for others, for shop owners and people with obviously different unfortunate situations. So I'm good. I can't complain.
Yeah.
I got a roof.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting time. We've been really, obviously, sorry, I'm in the Sydney showroom, so there might be a little bit of background noise every now and again.
That's good.
Rootin' tootin' text out the back. Sorry, they're making a laugh about that one. We've got obviously a pretty strong connection. The majority of our La Marzocco team based in Abbotsford, as you probably remember. And the lockdowns are affecting not only our team, but a lot of our customers. So our fingers are always on the pulse, and we need to just be pretty vigilant down there. And we are always keeping in pretty high communications with our entire team, which is very important in these times.
Yeah. Look, just sort of kind of get the ball rolling. The reach your first question. Just give us a bit, maybe an idea. How did you start your coffee journey?
Yeah, well, I mean, my coffee journey is still starting. I think I'm still at that stage where I'm very humbled to be around some very, very experienced people in the La Marzocco Australia team. And I'm still learning every day, still starting basically afresh every day, and there's always something new to learn. So I'm not even a quarter of the way there yet. So I started in hospitality when I was 17. Started working as a bellboy in a luxury hotel, wearing a vest, and getting amongst it in that respect. So I was there for 4 years, and over that time, from 17, to 21, I moved around the departments. There was always one department which I loved. It was breakfast, food and beverage, and upstairs they had a linear classic, and I was just like so eager, so eager to jump on the machine. So that's where my fascination lied. This is in Sydney, by the way. So I grew up in Sydney. And then, obviously, over that time, I was also studying an engineering degree. So it's kind of, it was kind of like work 4 days, work night shift, work breakfast, then go study engineering. It really kind of allowed me to gain some perspective at a young age, work hard, play hard, or so they speak. And then, the hotel kind of got a little old, and I really wanted to start branching out into my local cafe, and that's just what I did. I went to a local cafe, started making coffee. A good friend of mine, who is still this good friend today, Jin, who's now a very successful coffee roaster in Sydney. Roasted. We started. He showed me the ropes, showed me how to make specialty coffee, and really gave me like a real eye opener into the world that exists behind specialty coffee. So yeah, so ipso facto, I finished my engineering degree. I thought, all right, well, I guess that's it. I don't know. I got to go work for the man, and I got a job up in Queensland. Working for an engineering company, and I remember getting up there the first day and like sitting down at my desk and like an Excel spreadsheet opening up and being like, is this really what I want to do? Like for the next 30, 40 years. So it was a real eye opener for me of, how much I was really passionate about the industry and how inquisitive I was with the industry. So I lasted about 4 months at that job up in Queensland, and I bailed back down to Sydney and really stuck my teeth into specialty coffee. And I was like, I'm going to try and make a career out of this and see what I can do. And then, with that cafe for a little while, I kind of stayed pretty loyal to them. Although on my 2 or 3 days off a week, I was going to 3, 4 cafes a day, just going to cuppings, learning, trying to meet people. The real inquisitiveness of the coffee industry and the real curiosity was really what drove me. And then it got to a point where I thought it'd be a good idea to step outside my comfort zone. So I made the decision to move down to Melbourne, and the mecca that is Melbourne, or definitely in the 2008 to 2012, that kind of time was just like pumping. Cafes were exotic and like the spaces were amazing, and it was just so appetizing for someone who I reflect on it. I was like really, really curious and ambitious, and I really wanted to step into that zone. So I made the decision to come down to Melbourne and learn all that I could, meet as many people as I could, and then 6 years later, here I am. Very humbling to get the job at Marzocco. I'll probably tell you a bit about it at the minute, but it's that's kind of where my journey started. And it's kind of like finally I've got this job where I can use my curiosity and my ambition of coffee with engineering.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah,
work for a coffee machine manufacturer. So I thought I'd given up on the engineering life, but I'm very fortunate to be a part of a manufacturer's world and combine the two. So yeah.
No, thank you. I think that puts things in perspective. I think you were. I don't want to say, but you're one of the lucky ones that get stuck in something they don't like only for 4 months. Or better, maybe not luck. You had balls enough, self-awareness, and a sense of, no, this isn't right. I'm going to do something about it. Because what often happens in those situations is, oh no, I'm going to learn to like it. You kind of squash that little voice in your head, because whether it's driven by parents, whether it's driven by society, your mates around you, you're like, man, he's a lawyer, he's a doctor. And then you can repress the voice. And some people get stuck. Some people all their lives. Some people a matter of years or decades. And I'm glad that you were able, it's not just luck. You just had the level of awareness mixed with the call to actions and actually actioning, listening and to yourself, and it's good. 4 months is good. It's okay.
Yeah,
and,
it was a quick turnaround, and it was also like a bit of a weird move because I've got a Russian background. My mum is an engineer, my uncle's an engineer. We're all either usually engineers or gyp rockers, or builders. So like that's basically what our entire family was. So for me to step away and say, look, I don't think this is kind of really what is, I feel very fortunate to be in a generation where we can make those decisions. The world of information that we have around us, and and the ability for the hospitality industry to be able to support careers and decisions like this is, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. So yeah, really cool.
And was sort of like when you saw the Excel spreadsheet, was that moment that hit you? I'm just assuming here, but where you're like, okay, this is a spreadsheet. All of a sudden, the people element was removed completely. You're like,
yes,
this is my new people. I'm gonna talk to this spreadsheet, which is, people and community is the core element of hospitality, not just coffee.
That's
was
right,
that
exactly right.
You like also like part of it?
So I'm a big people person. That basically my role within La Marzocco, which we'll probably get to a little bit later, but my role is I'm the people person. I need to be out there speaking to people constantly. I vibe off it. When I was a barista and when I was working in cafes, I was constantly like my drive was my happiness. My day was because I got just to lighten other people's days by talking to them for a little bit. The best part of being a barista is the fact that you're probably the first person, the majority of people that they speak to that day, so you have a big power to brighten someone's mood and, to continue that vibe for a whole day. And I got such a kick out of it. I love talking to people. I love hearing people's stories. And yeah, when I got into my little cubicle as a graduate engineer, and had books in front of me, and a blank spreadsheet, I was, trying to, that told me to start doing calculations on like a pipeline or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but it was just like, oh man, I don't want to do that. That's annoying. Like, yeah, I studied really hard for it, but at this, like right now, it's like, oh, yeah, I don't really feel like doing that. I want to keep speaking to people. So that's what coffee's brought to my life. Real happiness and joy and a sense of community, and a connection to so many amazing people over the years. Yeah, so
because that's exactly sort of where I was going anyway with it. It's like coffee is good and fine, competition is good and fine. There's a lot of elements. Machinery is good and fine. Automation is good and fine. There's a lot of good stuff, but that people element is what makes the community. And then, it sort of, kind of entangles with your role at La Marzocco.
That's right.
I mean, I think La Marzocco community, and I think Rush,
Rush.
that's sort of what I think. What have you seen, I guess, in the past few years as far as the community go? Things that have improved and grown, and things that actually still remain the same despite being a larger community?
Look, there's the Australian coffee market, the Australian coffee community is such an inquisitive one, because everyone feeds off information. Everyone needs information, and there's almost like this like fifth wave. I'm kind of slightly, I don't want to throw around terms like that because it's a bit much, but fifth wave of coffee is, knowledge-based, data-based. So that there's been a huge shift in the market of wanting more information, needing more information. But back in the day, everyone was pretty stoked just to not worry about scales, not worry about this, as long as the coffee tasted the same, and that was basically it. But now you see, baristas from Perth that know how to dissect, a machine and set up incredibly complex reverse osmosis water filtration system that's specific for their needs. These are young, really lively professionals that see a future, in the industry, and that's something that's really positive that I've seen over my time, the last couple of years with La Marzocco. Something that hasn't really changed though is like the passion, the drive, and the energy of the young barista community. There's been a real there's almost like there's friendships that are so strong now in the industry in specific states and cities that it's this little community vibe that I love being a part of. I love relish the opportunity to go to like places like Adelaide or Perth, and just keep the ball rolling. So
And I think you're on the money. It's such. I don't think. I mean, there are, but I don't think there is quite an industry like the coffee industry that is so dependent, connected, absorbed with people. From the obvious, the most important people, which are obviously pickers and farmers at origin, all these hands just to hand us over a cup of coffee. But then we have manufacturers, suppliers, we have the whole chain. Obviously, machinery is another element. But then it's just, again, all people. And you rarely find an industry so into people, for the people, made by the people. I think that's the best part of it. And that's why when people used to ask me when I was working for a coffee roaster, I was more on the road doing the classic, a bit of chit chat and trying to convert accounts. And people were like, oh, how do you handle it? It must be tough. And I'm like, man, it's easy. I'm like, I got maybe twice in 3 years nasty situations, like twice that I can remember of. And even then it wasn't that nasty. It was more like, look, just get out of my shop. And but then you walk out and you're like, well, I don't know if they're in the right industry. Because even if people were not interested, there were still hospitality people. Therefore, they were like, hey, man, well, look, I'm happy where I am, but coffee, let's chat, let's talk, who are you? And then you build those friendships, like you said. You can still remain professional, but have these amazing relationships from Perth to Melbourne to Sydney. And it's just amazing. I think it's great.
At the end of the day, the people,
go on.
At the end of the day, the people that are involved in the hospitality, kind of career path, they're all people, they all vibe off each other. And that's their probably, number one characteristic or trait, is that you're not going to find a lot of people inside the coffee community that, or hospitality in general, that are, assholes. Like, everyone's really wonderful, and really positive. And, it's not really transactional, in a sense. You want to kind of avoid that kind of, you give me something, I give you something. I think you probably know that pretty well, being on the road. It's more about just saying g'day and enjoying each other's, kind of vibe and energy, and trying to, build something together. And that's, I think, what, I found a majority of my time on the road as well. It's been really wonderful. Yeah.
And just zooming in a little bit onto that young people, professionals that you were talking about, is something that I'm passionate. Going back to your decision after studying engineering, worked a day and you were already like thinking of leaving. This is fantastic, in my opinion. Nightmare for some parents. That's my dream as a future parent. What sort of kind of message or words you say to people who are so passionate, interested in coffee, whether they're brewing at home, whether they are, really loving the concept when they walk into a cafe or a roastery, but they're stuck in what society, family, friends, the news tell them to be a good job?
Chase your curiosity is my number one tip. As always, my ambition was like based off me chasing the questions that I had and the answers that I didn't have. And it was more so just about really finding out, what I really wanted. Also, try and be as positive, and, kind of look inwards on yourself a bit more and understand what, is most important in life. That was a big part of my decision. I rated happiness over monetary success at that time. And, it's something that I carry, every day. There's always something to learn, and there's always something that I, don't know. So, the coffee industry was that, in a broad sense back in the day. And, 10 years later, I'm kind of still learning. trying to learn something new every single day. So people, consumers at home that are making coffee at home, don't be afraid to ask questions. That's the number one thing. And ask your barista, because, that's like, I love getting like questions from customers asking me how to brew coffee at home, because it just meant that people cared, and it wasn't really a job. So that's probably my number one tip. Curiosity is good.
We go back to the vibes, it's like, I don't know, maybe for me right now, like I'm vibing, because the minute that you said happiness, it was already what I was going to say next. Going back on family, but for me, I was blessed and grateful that my parents, they might have shared their opinion and saying, when I decided not to go to uni, my mom is a teacher, but like one of those teachers who's like devoted to the study, it's like she loves studying. So for her, it was like, fuck, like, you're not going to uni, but ultimately, the last question that they always ask me is, are you happy? Yes. So when I told them I'm going to stay in Australia instead of coming back, because my intention was just to stay a year, I've been here 9. They will always ask, okay, well, this is our opinion, but are you happy? And the minute you answer yes, then things are good. And it's a double H of 2 words that we both spoke about, happiness and humble. Being humble enough to know that, like you just say now, to be curious, to be able to learn and keep learning, rather than say, I know everything. But at the same time, also translate that passion into, well, this is really making me happy. Understand yourself and find that spot that fits within the market, within the industry. You don't have to become a barista champion. You don't have to become a roaster. Just do what you love, and look, be humble enough to start from the ground up. Like,
exactly. Yeah, that's something that a lot of people forget. Yeah. There's always like, a ground that is, never too low, like I remember just eager. All I wanted to do when I was in, the hotel when I was like 17, I had no idea what I was doing. And all I wanted to do was just to spend time after hours learning how to make coffee. I was, just trying to learn new skills, trying to up my skills, not because of, kind of like a paycheck, just because I just wanted to get better at what I was doing, and because I wanted to find out new ways to do it. So, yeah, number one, always be humble, always try and, be positive on a day-to-day, and, that reflects really well, not only on your, kind of existence, but on the people you relate to. It's never a bad time.
You can really have a much more positive impact if you are focused on those 2 for sure. I'm glad it's definitely something that we should be grateful for, to be part of this industry. Yeah.
And being like a part of Marzocco as well, it's always, a real humbling experience, because it's a 93-year-old company now. Lots of experience, lots of ambition, lots of curiosity, and lots of innovation. And it's like I'm hanging out with Damien, who's been in our company for God knows how long, since the early 2000s. Seen the majority of our machines come to life over the last 20 years, and like to spend day to day asking him questions, and asking our technical team questions, and our entire team, full of experience that brings a whole new light on the industry. So it's positive.
And what sort of your role mean, like, in terms of context? What sort of is your role title, even though I hate titles, but just for the sake of the exercise, your title and sort of what your job is, and what does it mean?
Yeah, so I remember when my job was advertised and I applied for it. There's a funny poster on Instagram that Marzocco AU just posted, and it says, "Do you like coffee? Do you like Marzocco? Do you like to party? Then this job is for you." I was like, wow, that does sound like me. That sounds exactly, that's like literally my bio. So my role is the coffee ambassador of La Marzocco, or the brand ambassador of La Marzocco Australia. What that really means is, it started off as being, definitely a event coordinator and community kind of coordinator, being a part of all roasters' lives, and also being that kind of gateway contact for baristas to get amongst what La Marzocco is doing, because it's always been, about, as a manufacturer or distributor in Australia, to go from, business to business. My role is definitely about connecting with the end users, the baristas that actually are able to give us the correct feedback, to improve our equipment. So it's, a really important role, and something that I never take for granted. Really, it's all it is just being on the road and listening and understanding, what our customers really want from the ground up. So we're trying to, my role is like, but I also make sick parties, and that's probably the best part of my role, is that I'm the party guy. There are not so many parties happening at the moment, but of course. So my role has really shifted to just being more out on the road, especially in Sydney. Kind of one of the reasons why I relocated up here, to be more, connected with our customers whilst we can, and being at a responsible distance, of course, but still being around. And then, the other part of my role is also the home market. So we kind of, the training. So I don't know if you know too much about our home market, but we've got the Linear Mini and the GS3.
Yep.
Fantastic espresso machines, basically a commercial machine on your kitchen bench. And with that, the people, some of the people that might, first purchase a machine do require some training and some support to learn how to use it, and actually teach, some people from the ground up what specialty coffee is. So that's a part of my role as well. And I thrive. I love it. It's awesome showing people how to make coffee. Yeah.
Of course. Look, we're sort of, I'm going to retouch on what you just said. Thomas saying that it's the Eric effect.
Yeah. That's the tagline.
It's a tagline, yeah. Just because we reached the halfway mark, and I got the ritual out of the box question. It's part of this little show. So if you could, who would you like to have dinner with? And it doesn't have to be coffee; it can be anyone that you like.
Man, that is tough. Look, look, this sounds so dumb.
No,
but I'm a big, probably two kind of people, if I may. One, Adam Goodes. I'm a big Sydney Swans AFL football fan, and I love Adam Goodes to death. I think he's an amazing human, and he did so much for us, and he's still so prevalent in society. So he'd have a great conversation. And then probably some DJ, like, I don't know, Butch. He's like this German DJ, because I think we'd have a really good time together.
So party and learning.
Yeah, if Butch is watching right now, g'day, and I'd love to have a dinner with you one time in the near future. I love your music.
No, thank you. It's just a little question that we always ask, because I think it's interesting to hear, and also I like the idea that you're gonna go for the rest of the day thinking of who else you would like to have dinner with. Well, so your role, and means that you're out and about, especially pre-COVID. So what have you seen from the streets? How have you seen the coffee market, its evolution between not just Melbourne, but between the whole country?
Yeah, I mean, we're in a pretty fortunate predicament in La Marzocco that we are able to connect with, a huge number of roasters around Australia. And during COVID, we've seen some dramatic, shifts, pivoting happening across the country. There are definitely some places that have been affected a lot less than others. But we're really seeing, Melbourne, of course, which I'm incredibly, it's a really interesting time. You kind of have to kind of look to the future and look almost poetically to the future and kind of see that there's going to be some light at the end of the tunnel. And the way that we can see that is probably through other cities around Australia, like, Perth. We're basically back to normal. Nothing has really changed. Queensland, same thing. So booming business, takeaway business. A lot of businesses have still just maintained takeaway as their number one, priority. And it's really allowed a real different shift in business kind of strategy. People are realizing that the takeaway model, less equals less overheads and equals more profit. So we're finding, that it's a really popular move, and it could really shift the way the cafe framework is for years to come. But yeah, it's a really interesting one. There's been a huge shift in the market. The CBD, unfortunately, is suffering in most cities. Sydney CBD, I really feel for some businesses there. We try and support them as much as possible, try and get out there and say hello and make sure it's all good. But on the other hand, there are some suburban cafes that are just booming. So the future looks different, but I'm always on the optimistically bright side and saying that I think there was someone that said there's three things in life that survive, kind of a recession or a pandemic, and it's coffee, alcohol, and chocolate. So I'm drinking a lot of alcohol and I'm eating a lot of chocolate and I work in coffee. So I think we're okay.
And I'm sure there's another three elements that always survive too, but they're a little bit on the red light side, like gambling and other things, but those survive too. You're right. I think I'm the same when it comes to positivity. I think granted physical health and granted a lot of different areas to be covered, by essentials. And, we live in a stupidly lucky place to be
incredibly lucky.
I think that going back to your curiosity and learning innovation, I think that, the world changed after 9/11 for a whole bunch of reasons, but I like this analogy because we all have made those adjustments going to the airport that made it normal, right? So before 9/11, going to the airport was just like walking into a park, right?
Exactly.
Give and take, and only 20, 35 years before you could smoke on a plane, right? So just as much as that has shifted, it just become normal. Like animals, humans have a need, but also the DNA of adaptation. So we will adapt, and whether it's going to be masks or hand sanitizer or hugging or more virtual stuff, I don't know. And I don't want to even entertain the possibilities because they're a zillion. What I think when it comes to business, though, is that what I've noticed back when I was on the road, a lot of, and I'm coming from a very good place, but a lot of shops had such a closed mentality, this is how I've been doing it for 10 years. That's it. Don't want to hear about it. Don't want to see you. Don't want to know this. Don't want to do Instagram. Don't want to do Facebook. Don't want to do Singularity. Don't want to, like there's a lot. Now all of a sudden it's like,
boom. We need it.
How can I talk to my people while the shop is closed? Well, social media would have been, and marketing would have been a good tool if you implemented it the past 10 years. And all of a sudden foot traffic is irrelevant because foot traffic is shifted because nobody's in the CBD. So how can you drive people to your shop? And then we go down the rabbit hole of what about deliveries? What about online e-commerce? And I think that curiosity and learning needs to really shine. And those people like yourself who have that capacity of like, okay, well, this is how it is. What we're going to do about it. It's going to be the fourth and fifth wave, in the sense of also, you know, I think someone, Daniel Horvath, said to me during a podcast episode that in his opinion, the fourth way is going to be home brewing. And I think to a degree is a good call. And yeah, I mean, have you seen more home brewing as far as your goal?
A lot. And, you know, a real thing that really, you know, kind of isolates the Australian coffee market is the fact that our consumers are so knowledgeable. You know, the coffee consumers, the home customers, the home coffee drinkers, so knowledgeable with single origin, so knowledgeable with, you know, different brew methods, filtration methods. I've been speaking to roasters up in Sydney, and they've been saying they've been getting so many requests or like deliveries for people in Melbourne that are for retail coffee from their space, because people are just inquisitive and they want to try new beans and they've heard about it. So they're ordering everything online. We're getting a lot of requests for virtual demos, which we've been conducting with Marzocco Home. So I've been connecting with people all across Australia, and, you know, we've each had an espresso machine at home, and we've been talking through how, you know, we can brew espresso at home better, how we can dial in a grinder. So yeah, there's a huge market of knowledge, you know, kind of drinkers that are out there, that are asking questions, and it's just getting more and more by the day. It's been pretty remarkable to actually watch, which is, yeah, a real testament to the community.
Community and the format is changing of communication amongst community.
Yes.
You know, it's like, you know, again, let's call it old school coffee cafe operator doesn't have no longer the opportunity to talk to Jimmy, Jennifer, Jason, and I don't know, another Danielle. All of a sudden is like, how can I talk to them? And that's where when my clients or prospects or people who just want a chat, and I'm just, you know, happy to have a chat, and ask me about social media or marketing, I say, well, it's all good and fine. You can have an agency or your team, your staff doing a whole bunch of things, where it's, you know, video content, whether it's going to be posts, where it's going to be, you know, photos, but your face needs to be in it. And whether it's going to be, you know, when you close up the shop and you want to have a 5, 6, 7.5 minutes chat live or on a story or a video format, just because, or you can have a private Facebook group, you know, where the OGs who have been supporting you for 7 years of you opening they can just hang out every Friday for a bevy. I think even we need to understand that we need to kind of shift the way that we communicate and accept that at the moment that's how it is, especially for Melbourne, because I mean,
it's opened our eyes up how strong and powerful. It's not really opened us up. We were always kind of our marketing has always been a number one priority. You know, I'm part of the marketing team, and it's really, once the pandemic really began, it really shifted our focus of how can we continue to be connected to our market, not only our commercial market, but our home market. And we did just that. We started virtual classrooms inside a private Facebook group with our home customers. We connected via Instagram. We connected via, you know, actual like private messaging. We set up a live chat on our website where we were able to connect with people through just like instant messaging, like basically like, you know, MSN Messenger back in the day. It's like, it's just on my phone now. It's awesome. And what it's really grown is a real sense of community, of virtual community, which is, it's been amazing. I've started connecting with, you know, home customers that I think you featured a home customer on your story, Barista Daz, or pouring the latte in the mouth. He's part of this little crew of like
Naked Barista.
Yeah, Naked Barista Daz, and this other guy, Adrian, who they're all friends. and they all have linear minis at home. And I always send them merch because they're amazing and they give us such, you know, good feedback. But this connectivity probably might not have happened, you know, without the virtual world. So it really sets the undertone of how important, you know, and how actually wonderful, you know, that we imagine if we didn't have this much connectivity and a pandemic arose, you know, it's just, so we may as well get the most out of it and use it to our advantage. And yeah, real testament. I mean, the cafes is a whole different story, but we're seeing it all over Australia of people connecting in different ways virtually, really upping their game in terms of, you know, Instagram, social media. Like there's like a few TikTok accounts out there now of cafes that I follow. Yeah, it's always something new and exciting on. And yeah, really finding it in different pockets all around Australia. It's been wonderful to see. Yeah.
And I think it kind of like, you know, it breaks that, you know, which is sometimes happens, ego, you know, it's like, instead of like, you know, having that ego, you could just like strip yourself and be like, you know what, who cares? Like, you know, there really isn't right or wrong in coffee to a degree. So I'm going to post this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to talk to this person or that person. And I think just it's just incredibly important that these kind of functions are there. They've always been there. If this technology wasn't available, the community would find different ways. Whereas, you know, renting airplanes to draw a message in the sky, or whereas going back to letters, or, you know, using balloons to send, I don't know, whatever it is. It's like it is important that we are inquisitive about it, and how we can get back to our faith, you know, together.
There's also like this, there's also this real sense of, I don't know whether it's like this sense of secrecy or that some, you know, before the pandemic, a lot of roasters really had this sense of secrecy, and we want our kind of, it's still around, and that's, you know, just a part of business. But I've seen a lot of people open up their doors to information. And that's something that we've done as well. You know, we love sharing our stories and our history and our products, you know, with people. And a lot of roasters have started to do the very same thing. Open up arms to the world and to their consumers. And, you know, and everyone's just being a lot more transparent in this current climate, because it's just so essential. You can't really hide behind anything anymore.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the roadblocks in the game. Like if you look at food, there's chefs who have, you know, TV shows, and there's chefs who share their recipes and secret recipes and whatnot. Obviously, there is always a fine balance in business. So like machinery, there's probably patents and particular technology that you can't just like release all your books. But you know, it's always been like that. I mean, you have James Hoffman, you got Scott Rao, you got all these amazing coffee people who write books, who have YouTube channels, who have, you know, who writes, you know, Socratico, you know, it just like goes into the tiniest detail of information.
That's right.
Because if we're not sharing, then we can't grow. Because you might read an article and you're like, no, that's not true. And then you start experimenting. Then you start working your way around to write your article while you dispute that. But not in a I'm right, you're wrong, more in how can we make it better? How can we make it more available? So access and accessibility should be by default in an industry where we always talk about transparency. Now, we don't need to know tiniest details on how much you pay per hour, every single employee of yours, and what's your rent. But definitely more openness is important.
Big time.
Open to this. Yeah, I agree.
I'll tell you a little story about because there's a little machine that we Marzocco released in called the Strata EP, which is a machine that was designed through the channels of asking the barista community what you want. you know, just going. So they created a street team, or the Strata street team of, you know, people like Tim Wendelbo, Tim Varney, and, you know, Damien, our kind of tech, and a few other people from Italy. And they all came together and they collaborated a machine that was basically the dream machine at the time, you know, for, you know, the maybe some form of figureheads within the industry of the coffee world. And, you know, the real crux of it is the way that they came up with the design of the machine was they created a Yahoo forum, and Marzocco posted the different designs on a public Yahoo forum, and they said, which one do you like best? And I was like, that's so cool how they can have that kind of like level-headedness to just be out there and, you know, honest, you know, with the community of what's actually happening, asking their opinion on what, you know, the consumers actually want, and then following it up with, you know, learning something new and teaching something new. So yeah, I mean, it's just something that I don't know whether it's kind of got lost over the last, you know, kind of 10 years or so, but I think it's slowly coming back. Like, it's really shocked some people into, you know, some businesses into really just being more open and transparent and honest with their customers and the community around them. It's been actually, yeah, really cool to see.
Yeah, it is cool. I think, you know, it's sort of going back to that element of marketing, of who you are and what you share and the shareability of something. It's like,
yeah,
that story just goes hand in hand with it. I think that, you know, a lot of people confuse marketing and social media and communication with this, you know, you can manipulate, you can have distorted version of it, fake news, the photoshops of the world. But
yeah,
if you're legit and you just actually want to showcase what you do, and you can walk the talk, as they say, then there's no problem to you to go wham and triple down on the socials. You know,
that's
it's
right.
like I know there's different brands across, you know, certain sections of the coffee market, and I'm like, you know, I'm looking at the top tiers and the ones who dominate, or the ones who are really doing a fantastic job. You know, their competitors might have a very similar product, or a product that just, you know, or service that does just justice still. Their presence is so limited, which is okay. I mean, not everyone has the Starbucks budgets for marketing and
That's
R&D
right.
and all of that. But it's like, man, I've seen, you mentioned TikTok. You know, there's a guy on TikTok that has 200,000+ followers. He's from Melbourne, and he started his TikTok by saying, I got an addiction with fizzy drinks. I want to quit.
Yeah, I know the
And
guy.
you're going to hold me accountable. You've seen that guy?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And then it pops in your feed. It's like, day 47, no fizzy drinks. And I'm like, you know,
Man.
he didn't have the Starbucks marketing budget. He found a way, and he just wanted to tell his story. And I think, going back to community and people, brands need to tell their stories more
Yes.
in order to just appeal to people.
It's how do you stay genuine, but also how do you stand out from the market, you know? And that's a real kind of parallel that you need to really look for in, you know, the current climate of social media and marketing is how do you maintain your, you know, continue to be genuine, and how do you stand out from the crowd? And that's such a tough one. I mean, the Australian coffee market, I always kind of say that it's so difficult to stand out from the Australian coffee market until you go overseas or like see what's happening overseas. I've always asked the question, what is the Australian like cuisine? You know, there's no, because everyone was like, oh, meat pies or burgers or whatever. But I think, to be honest, it's coffee and smashed avocado and poached eggs. You know, like that's our exportable product to the rest of the world. So how do you, you know, you see, you know, Australian or Melbourne coffee shops opening up in New York and London and all across the world. They all through Southeast Asia. It's amazing to see this beautiful, huge community of you know, young aspiring cafe owners that, you know, at the end of the day, some might have, you know, done their time in Melbourne or Sydney, you know, or other parts of Australia, Perth, amazing coffee culture there. But at the end of the day, they've learned everything, and they, you know, see us as a benchmark. So how do you stand out in that market? Like, how do you it's a really tough kind of climate to be a part of in terms of social media marketing. But
that question, you give the answer very early on, right? Being inquisitive, humble, keep learning, and curious.
That's right.
So, for instance, it's great that you bring this point up, and I hope that we got enough time to close it. But it's like, you know, people, you know, like Francesco Sanapo, you know, from Dictato Giornale, came here 2013 from PwC, and he was like so amazed about the fact that, you know, Melbourne is coffee and food. So he went back home and he's like, I need to replicate sort of this. It's like, okay, we got the coffee covered, but we also need to pump out the whole brunch, breakfast concept. So that's what he picked. But there's no reason why Melbourne, for instance, or the Australian markets couldn't look at what America is doing. Because, for instance, I've asked this question to a few American guests on the show, and they're like, well, if there's one thing that I think that Melbourne should look at us is our batch brew. You know, our batch brew game is just at the bare bone minimum. You know, it's like lukewarm, cold, sitting there for hours. There's no even the machinery is very basic. And their, you know, their take is like, well, your commercial batch brew setup is what we have at home. So right there, it's like, oh, okay, there is something to look at that. Or, you know, there's people in Melbourne who has showcasing international roasters, or, you know, so I think there's always something to learn from anybody, whether it's from Iceland, Finland, Norway, Italy, Korea, India. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's just if you're curious enough, you'll be able to find things that will also you can implement even in this tough Australian market.
Yes, it's really again it's humbling to always maintain that you know, kind of direction or mindset. We're very fortunate in Marzocco to have, you know, we distribute to over 120 countries around the world, so we've got an incredible amount of connections around the world, and we're able to be a part of each other's lives now more than ever. So yeah, this kind of whole community of coffee, not just the Australian market, but, you know, it's a global market that we all have to kind of work together, from farmers to manufacturers to baristas to consumers. It's one huge, it really kind of shrinks us all. And, you know, there's always something new that we can adapt to, we can pivot with, whether it be, you know, how we make equipment, like, you know, the KB90, how it's, you know, this new machine that was designed or thought of in 1998, but it's really starting to change people's mindsets of how they work around a machine, to how we actually, you know, kind of can speak to us as La Marzocco, or like us, how we can speak to farmers more, how we can, you know, cultivate growth inside, you know, the green buyer community. These are the things that we're talking about, so that we, you know, can maintain this global community and, you know, kind of push it in the right direction, or help it, whatever we may come up against, you know? Yeah.
I love it.
It's an interesting one. Yeah.
No, I love it. That was a lot of good points that we raised, and I think there's a few valuable gems that you've dropped, and I think people will be able to re-listen to this will be quite fortunate. I think it's always good for us to talk about these topics, just because, to give it a platform, to give it a bit of space, because I think we often don't talk about that. And you know, it's fine talking about skills and, you know, I don't know, recipes and the technical side of things, but even this has a space, because then it puts things in perspective in many aspects. But Eric, this was a real treat. I'm glad that I got the chance to see you too.
Yeah, me too.
I think last time I saw you was about probably like last year. Perhaps at I think you and
the showroom. Yeah,
I think it was at your showroom, or it was also at the exhibition center, and you took the team I think it was one of the hosts of that event was Gary Vee. I think
Oh
went
yeah, I saw
there.
you there. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
That's
think it
right. I
was
remember
about
that.
July last year. Yeah. Anyway,
That's
yeah,
right. I was with
it's
Tom.
been a while. Hey?
I was with
Yeah,
Tom,
yeah, yeah,
who's
yeah. You were,
yeah,
yeah, exactly.
nice.
But as you know, we're gonna go to the La Marzocco Melbourne in 4 minutes.
Yes.
Talk to Brian, but very, very humble to have the chance to hear what you said, and I
Yeah.
really appreciate your
Yeah,
time
awesome.
because I know you're a busy man.
Oh man,
So
always time for a coffee and a chat. It's a real pleasure, and thank you. And I'm a big fan of, I always watching all your stuff, and it's really nice to have as much information out there and as many conversations out there as possible. So yeah, keep smashing it, and keep sipping good coffee, everyone.
we'll, we'll try. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I'll
Hey
um,
man.
I'll um, I'll shoot you a text later.
All
Thank you,
right.
buddy.
Sounds good.
See you
Thanks,
soon.
dude. See you soon.
Ciao.
Cheers. Bye.
This is end of part one with La Marzocco Australia. So yeah, if you just tuned in, we just had an amazing chat with Eric. He's in the Sydney La Marzocco showroom. We had an amazing conversation about coffee community, the coffee market. So if you haven't had the chance to hear it, we're gonna repost this into IGTV, YouTube, and a podcast format or whatever you fancy. If you got time, stick around because we've got another hour. Today's a double treat, double episodes right after this. So in 3 minutes, we're going to connect with Bryden in Melbourne showroom, and we're gonna have just another chat, looking at the importance of equipment, machinery, and a whole bunch of stuff that I'm sure he will enlighten us. And yeah, hope to see you there. And yeah, this is the end of part one, so stay tuned for part two. It's going down in a few minutes. Otherwise, if you can tune in, thank you, and we'll talk soon.